This tutorial is going to show you one of the last stages of making your dress, finishing off the armholes. You need to have your neck edge done first, so if you haven't done that, then look at the other video of how to finish off your neck edge, and then the armholes are the last thing to do. Let's get started. When bagging out the armhole, we need to take a little bit off the facing on the armhole edge, not at the bottom where the side seam is, but all around the other piece, which is 3mm or 1/8 of an inch. So we just trim that off the facing, and when we put our facing in, it will be very clear why we do it. It's all to make sure that it looks absolutely perfect on the outside, because you don't want to see your facing or your lining on your finished dress. So you can see now the facing is slightly smaller than the outer pattern. The first step we need to do is start at the side seam, and I like to turn both layers in the amount of your seam allowance, and then just put pin here just to make sure that you haven't got anything twisted. And then once you turn it the right way around and see that it's not twisted, you can carry on. So now we need to pin it all the way around now that we know it's not twisted. I always like to have the facing underneath, so just flip that under, and we need to pin this properly now. So put your pin through the side seam of your main fabric, and then through the side seam of the facing, and fix that there. And then we need to work our way up to the shoulder seam, just making sure the right sides stay together. It can be a little bit fiddly, particularly if it's got very narrow straps. So just get all the way up to the top. You need to kind of pull the front through. It's one of those things that when you come to do it, it will all make a little bit more sense. So this is now the shoulder. So put your pin through there and then through the facing, making sure the right sides are facing each other. So remember when we cut out the fabric at the beginning, when we made our pattern, we cut the facing slightly shorter. Remember, we cut a little piece off here. So that means that the facing is slightly narrower down the strap to the outer. So it will sit perfectly underneath, so you won't see any of the lining or facing poking out on the armhole. So we now need to just put all the pins in between the side seam and the shoulder point, and then we need to go and stitch that up. Just make sure when you get to the shoulder seam that you've got your seam open on both sides, because it just makes it sit much better on the strap. So when you get to the top, just sew as far as your pin and go back on yourself. And that's one side done. So now that that's been stitched up, we need to just trim off our seam allowance. We need to leave a few millimeters just so obviously it doesn't fray as you wear it. Just have a good check to make sure nothing has got caught up while you're doing it, and then you can give that a trim. And now we can turn it around and see how it looks. And that's the first side of our first armhole done. What we need to do now is just go back to the inside, and we just need to do exactly the same on the front. You'll find that the second side you do is a bit easier because you've already got your shoulder in place, you've already got your side seam in place, you just need to do the bit in between. So we'll do that, we'll turn it around, double check it, and then trim it. And now that we've got everything sewn in, we need to go and give it a really, really good press around those armholes. I always find that ironing an armhole on a tailor's ham makes it a lot easier than doing it on a flat ironing board. If you don't know what a tailor's ham is, it looks like this, and you can buy these online. And there you go, your armhole is now complete.